Hi everyone and welcome to another episode of Small Talk. I'm Amy, this is my partner Maggie, and together we're ThinkerThemer. In Small Talk we talk about small filler games or lighter games, games that don't take too long to play or can easily travel with you. And today we are talking about 5 exciting games that we're really, like, there's something for everyone in this week's mix,
really is.
which I really like.
Yeah, quite a mix.
Yeah, quite a mix. But first, of course, we will give you a postcard update.
Oh yeah, postcards.
Postcard update.
Let's go to postcards.
They're still trickling through. Thank you everyone for sending them
Yes.
on. I'll start first. I have one that has a beautiful illustration of Hawaii on it. Hopefully you can see that. And this is from Alice and Vincent, who say that they started board gaming earlier this year.
Ah,
Yeah,
so relatively new to the hobby.
Pretty new to the hobby.
That's exciting.
Yeah, thank you for finding us and for tuning in. And it says here, P.S. My fiance wants you guys to know he thinks you are the coolest YouTubers he follows. So that's so lovely. And
Thank you.
Alice is from Hawaii and he's from Taiwan, and now they both live in California. So that is a wonderful mix of locations.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sending through a postcard.
Yes, thank you. Now, the next postcard actually comes from Terry, and it's from, I'm going to get this wrong. I always get words wrong. What is wrong with me? Multnomah Falls in Oregon. Now,
More Portland.
I think we have a lot of spots that
Portland
now we...
v Chicago.
Yes, like we should actually almost have a tally, and kind of see like which one's winning in terms of where our viewers come from, which is amazing. But yeah, so this is really funny because he says that he looked for a postcard and he didn't realize how hard it was going to be to find one.
Yeah.
So it was like the 4th or 5th store where he finally managed to get one. But we're very, very glad and grateful that you did.
Thanks for persisting, Terry.
Thanks for your persistence, and it's a lovely postcard. So thank you for that, Terry.
Do you think worldwide they've seen like an uplift in postcard sales? They're like, we've had a 1,000% increase in postcard
all of a
sales.
sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden. What is happening?
I don't think so.
No.
I think we're still quite minute drop in the ocean.
I have to say, our post office has probably never seen so many postcards
This is true.
in their whole lives.
Yes, probably every staff member that's there is like, what? What's
Another
happening?
postcard?
Yeah.
This one is hilarious because sent us a range of postcards in this envelope here, and there's a sticker on it, said that it was opened by Australian Post for inspection by the Australian Border Force.
Serious stuff.
So can you imagine, and it says here that there's another little note saying that it was open for inspection but no items have been removed, but can you imagine how ominous they thought this package was, and then they opened it and found
like,
a whole heap of
I'm sure that they were like, it seems like postcards. Who sends postcards? This must be
anymore?
suspicious.
Yeah,
this is.
That's right.
No, it's postcards.
There's some beautiful pictures here of California. So there's some, got some sea mammals here on the California coast. The historic Californian highway, which I'm almost certain we've driven along this Route 101. And it says, thanks so much for the great community you are building. Very proud to be a part of it. Thank you especially for speaking out for equality and representation. That means so much to us. Thank you, Don. And there's one last postcard that he sent, which is this amazing building, which is the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And it just looks like, super amazing, because he said they've tried to keep it in line with the fishing industry vibe of the building. And you probably can't see that on camera, but it does look like an amazing structure.
Yeah, it looks really cool.
Yeah, really cool. And so close to the water, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you very much, Don, for sending those through.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that the Border Force didn't take them.
Yeah, that they thought that this was a safe package to allow through to the rest of, to carry on in Australia. Now, the next one's from Chicago, and it's Liz. And Liz also says that, I know that you have a huge contingent from Chicago supporting, which, again, it just means that we are going to have to prioritize a lot of these places as the next place that we visit when we manage to finally get out of Australia.
We'll have to get back to Chicago.
We have to go to
Portland for the first time.
Yes. So this is a beautiful view. This is actually probably one of my favorites, because when we did go and visit, this was one of my favorite views from the south side of the city. I just love how that lake, it just feels like an ocean because it's just so vastly huge. And and we went in summer, so I just love the vibe and so thank you so much for that.
Thank you,
Liz.
Thanks for sending that, Liz. And then the next one is from David, aka Tour Guide, who has sent this really awesome,
so cool,
this really awesome postcard where it's got like a tiny little miniature. And fun fact, I love really small things. Like
she really does.
And even before I got into miniature painting, I really like scale models of like small things.
Anything.
Just anything.
Like little, if it's a food item,
if it's a little.
Since
I was young, actually, which is, I don't know why. I just I find them fascinating. But he's actually putting on a show, which is amazing, on an opera house stage. And he says it's a short drive from Vegas because he knows that we're often in Vegas.
Yeah.
And this is from the iconic location on the edge of Death Valley.
Right.
Which I think we have kind of driven through that area before. Yeah. And, when we've been kind of day tripping away from Vegas, I believe that this is, pretty close to Vegas. So, we hope we can get over there for your show, but more broadly, just to meet everyone in the US. We're back in hard lockdown here in Melbourne, and Australia's going through a bit of troubles with the vaccination program, but hopefully one day soon we'll be able to travel again. But thank you so much for sending that, David.
Thank you. Now, another one. This one is from Cascadia National Park, and it's Monica and Lisa who are sending this through, and they're saying that this is actually one of their favorite fishing holes because they know that we love fishing as well. We do love
fishing, and we would love to go fishing there with you. It looks amazing.
It does look amazing. So I think, and I love, one of the things that I don't like about fishing, if we go deep sea fishing, is that whole swayiness if you're in rough water. So that's why lake fishing. Ideal.
Yeah, especially on like a little dinghy boat. That's amazing. I love that.
I remember when we went fishing in Canada, and but it was like that was still on a lake.
That was on a lake, but the lake was very like flowy, and I remember when we were out there for like 8 hours, and when we lay down at night, the whole room was just like. The whole house.
We were walking home and like the whole like universe was doing this. It's like, what is happening? So yes.
Also, don't catch a lot of fish and bring it home to your Airbnb.
Not a great idea.
It's not a good time.
Yeah. There's a lot of had a lot of anxiety around how do we make sure that this doesn't stink like fish.
And then where do we get rid of the scraps?
We're gonna get the worst reviews. Yeah. No, we did figure it out. So that was good.
The next one is coming from Colorado, Wyoming, and this is from Ken. And Ken was traveling through Wyoming and figured he would stop and pick up a postcard. Again, I think like you've got to grab a postcard whenever you can. So we've got one from Wyoming and one from Colorado. Well, I don't actually know how far. What?
What?
I was thinking, how far apart are those places?
I don't know.
I really need to look at a map. But I like this postcard because it says, send more tourists, the last ones were delicious. And it's got some bears. And then we've got Colorado here. And Ken says, thank you for doing what you do. You make gaming better. And he's also drawn a bear on both of the postcards, but I won't turn them around. But it looks really cute. So thank you so much for sending those through. Ken.
Okay, the next one is from Lillian, who sends it from Minneapolis, and it's actually of the mural or the memorial where George Floyd was murdered, which obviously this was such a world-changing tragedy, and we're very, very obviously proud to have this be represented and have it on our wall because, Black Lives Matter, and it's changed a lot. And change that needed to happen.
Absolutely. This will definitely go up on our wall, and we're very proud to display it. So thank you, Lillian, for thinking of that. And excited to get that up on our wall as a constant reminder that Black Lives Matter. The next one is a set of 3. So it's a mixture, I think, of some vintage postcards. So this is from Aaron. And Aaron sends, well, first of all, let's go through the vintage postcards. I enjoyed this because this is from his town where he says this is the real life Tekenu obelisk of the sun. And it does look a lot like that. So it's the Schuylerville Monument. So you can see that there. And he's given us a lot of historical facts on that, and really interesting to read all of this. And this one is from the city where he grew up in, Saratoga Springs, which is famous for horse racing. And it's mineral springs. So, you know, we love a good mineral spring.
We do.
Yeah.
A hot spring,
Hot
ideally.
spring, yeah. And the final one is really cool because he says there aren't many attractions or things to do in their small agricultural town. But when winter begins, all of the farmers get together and they have a lighted tractor parade. So everyone decorates their farm equipment with Christmas lights, and then there's a parade that goes through the town. And it started small, but now thousands of people from all around come to watch, and the whole town shuts down for hours. So that's pretty amazing. I've never heard of anything like that, but that's something that I would love to attend one day. What a unique event. So thank you so much, Aaron, for sending those through.
Yes. And my last one is actually a whole series of postcards and stickers. Which, from Michigan, and it's actually Abby B, who has sent us a few beautiful kind of like vintagey type postcards.
Yeah, they're really beautiful.
And then another sort of like greetings from Michigan.
Oh yeah, and here's the Michigan sticker.
And it's the same, the sticker. But I absolutely, and she says that she's a 90s child, so as a 90s child, likewise. We love stickers, love stickers, and that is very true. And look at all of these beautiful, beautiful stickers.
Yeah, we have to work out where we're going to put some stickers. We love stickers.
Yeah.
And probably on the kind of in our studio as it evolves. I think we'll find a nice little place to put those up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're awesome.
They're
so
really
thank you for
awesome.
sending those.
Thank you so much for that, Abby.
Yeah.
And that's all of the postcards. You can still send us a postcard.
Yeah.
We are adding them to our wall every day. There's still lots of white space, and you know, we might eventually move to or create a bigger studio. So the more postcards we have, the better.
Yeah.
If you'd like to send us one, we'll drop the address again down below in the description. But now we'll move on to some IAQs, or infrequently asked questions.
Yes.
And so I have a couple for you today. Let me see.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it. So Rachel asks, what is Maggie short for?
Oh.
She had a few guesses. I think Margaret, Magdalene.
It's actually short for Magali. So my name is Magali, which is, there's a lot of Magalis in South America, but Magali is Portuguese because my dad was Brazilian, and I think my mom just fell in love. Actually, it was my grandma that fell in love. I think she read it somewhere in a novel or something, and she's like, I love that name. Yeah, Magali. It's short for Magali.
Magali, and in your professional life, mostly Magali in Australia, because people can't, that's how they read it, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't know why, I was just very comfortable with people. Like, my mom's name is Magali.
Magali and Magali.
Okay, I'll use my mom's, what do you call it? The enunciation. Is it enunciation? The emphasis. Emphasis in the different syllable. Yes.
And but Maggie, by everything board game related, and generally all of our friends call you Maggie or
Maggie
Mags.
or Mags.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty easy question.
Yeah.
The next one is from Don, who said, did you consider any other concepts for our channel?
Well, I feel like the main idea was we just wanted to kind of share what we thought about different games.
Yeah, we always knew that it would be reviews as opposed to anything else.
Yeah. And I think it was when we were looking at considering, it's like, well, what are we going to even name it? And that's when then you kind of came up with the concept of like, well, we tend to approach games very differently anyways. And then, sort of playing from that.
Yeah,
I don't think there were any other
I started
concepts.
writing board game reviews, actually, and just sharing them on Facebook, like my personal Facebook, and just like kind of doing that, more and more frequently. It was always from my perspective, and we don't have many friends that is totally into board games, so it's probably falling mostly on deaf ears. But
it was just noise for most people.
Yeah, it was absolutely. But it was a lot of fun to write my thoughts down, and then I often found that those thoughts were quite different to Maggie's, and then I don't know, just as we started playing more and thinking about it, realizing those two different perspectives, and the fact that there's a lot of other people out there that are either mechanics oriented or theme oriented, and then just the branding was just playing around with names that we thought would capture that, also be kind of fun, but just capture
Yeah.
that idea. And then the logo, a lot of people ask us about our logo, but the logo is a kangaroo, just it's not a rabbit or
Is
anything
this
else.
a rabbit? Is this a dog? It's
No,
a kangaroo.
It's a kangaroo. And
Or at least it's meant to be a kangaroo.
yeah, and the two sides of it represent that ThinkerThemer angle. So one side of it is meant to be more monochrome and more geometric, which is all about like that side of the brain and thinky, and then the other side is colourful and is more illustrated to represent the thema. That's the same in the font for ThinkerThemer. So we just wanted to kind of carry that idea through. I think we probably, in our reviews, we were probably a bit stronger in sticking to our lanes on those two things, but now it's kind of, I think it's just how we approach things, but we go a bit off script now, I think.
Very much,
we allow ourselves to do that, but still very much what we appreciate, and the games that get us most excited for me is definitely always something interesting mechanically.
Yeah.
And Maggie's always like, a theme just draws her in straight away. So it was pretty clear what we wanted to do with the channel, I think.
There weren't other concepts that we kind of scrapped. Yeah.
No, not really. And so Jacob asked, have we ever been to the UK? And if so, where in particular? And have we thought about attending the UK Games Expo?
Oh, we have been to the UK. Only London, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before that, actually, I'd only been to London once when I was 2, and I had a severe asthma attack as a 2-year-old. And actually, my mum and I ended up in the hospital in London for quite a while because that was my first asthma attack, which was really bad. So, but I don't remember any of that. And we actually went back for the first time.
A few years ago, a couple of years ago.
2 years ago.
Or at least 3 years ago.
Well, definitely
We've
pre-COVID.
been in a pandemic for like 2 years.
Yeah. So I think at 2019 we got over there. We've got some friends who live over there and opened a cafe, and we wanted to go and visit them.
Yeah.
And what a wonderful place. I have to say we spent a lot of time in escape rooms because we have friends travelled there with us who love escape rooms, and we went and saw a lot of musical theatre because we love that as well. And what else did we do? We kind of just hung out with friends. It was really nice to get a feel for what it would be like to live in London. Really interesting, big city.
Would we go back, and would we go back to a games day? Absolutely.
UK Games Expo.
Easy.
I'd love to do that.
Again, as soon as they let us out. Now we're both fully immunized, so that's exciting. That it's getting closer and closer potentially every day.
Absolutely. So yes, we have thought about attending every con everywhere.
Yes.
We would love to do that, and also travel more broadly in the UK. I would love to do that as well. I don't know why it took us so long to get there. I'd always thought that one day traveling for work or a conference or something would take me to London, and then I realized that if I don't plan to go to London, I probably never will. So because we used to just go through Heathrow to get to other places.
So it was always just on the way somewhere else.
Transit. So I'm glad we stopped and we're able to check it out. So that might be all the IAQs that we'll cover today. But one thing that came up on our Discord this week that I thought was really interesting comment by Amato was this idea of someone becoming more impatient as a gamer.
Can't relate.
Because
I feel like I'm not becoming more impatient. I feel like other people get slower.
Because you are playing more solo, and when you play more solo, you're playing against a bot and really just taking turn after turn after turn. So does that make you more impatient when you play multiplayer with other people?
Well, I would say not necessarily, because I feel like I was already fairly impatient even before I started playing a lot of solo. I don't think the solo helps because it enables that low patience thing, because you are just engaged and playing the whole time. I would say also one of the things that I realized recently was that I'm almost like I have a scientific approach to playing games, in that often the thing that I enjoy is at the start of a game, I will think of a particular strategy that I want to try, and it's almost like a hypothesis, and I want to play it out to see how that, can I prove that? Would that strategy work or not work? And so the reason I get impatient is because often that's that's particularly for games where you can do multiplayer solitaire. So I get impatient when it's someone else's turn because it's like I don't want to forget what I'm trying to do and I just want to see this play out and I just need all these turns. So obviously that lends itself a lot better to solo because that's exactly what you can just sort of do. And so if you're playing with someone who's like that, I think, well, the easier way is to try and find games that have a lot of simultaneous turns.
Yeah.
Like kind of Hadrian's Wall style, where it's like you're all kind of playing at the same time. So there's very little downtime. Aside from that, you know, it's more of a like kind of, for me, has been a journey of like self-reflection and self-work, and even just talking to you about like when I'm playing, you're often paying attention to what I'm doing, even if it's a multiplayer solitaire. And then you can also learn from, you know, what I'm doing or appreciate what that person is doing.
Work out how to take you down. I don't know, for example.
For example. So I think I've taken that on and tried to just stop. Like there's no rush. We don't have to get through this. You know, it's not a race. And then just kind of pay more attention to what you're doing and then be able to also kind of go, oh, that's a great move and acknowledge the other person. And yeah.
I think I'm more prone to AP in general or analysis paralysis because I like to play out all of the possible scenarios in my head. Maggie is much more kind of gut oriented or like going after one strategy and like is less flexible in that strategy, I guess, whereas I'm trying to evaluate the board state and change what I'm doing. So I do take longer on my turns, but I have, from my perspective, noticed that since Maggie's been playing solo, certainly the degree of impatience is increasing. So I do feel a little bit stressed sometimes at having to rush my turn. So that is something that we will have to work on as a couple.
And again, I remember there's been times where even with friends, we've talked about, not so much in our play group, but they would be talking about how they would have players in their group who would take forever to take their turn.
Yeah,
and so they've implemented, which was very controversial and did not land very well, like a timer. So it's like as soon as it's your turn, you have a timer of, you know, you've got 1 minute max to,
I don't love
take
that,
your turn.
but I do think there is a limit to which, like, okay, you should probably not have everybody waiting this long. And games that are good as well are ones where you can think about your turn before it is your turn. So I do appreciate when people have like thought about what they're going to do and then kind of take their turns. Because I don't think I actually take that long, just compared to Maggie, who gets really impatient. No, not that long. No, really not that long.
And I remember when I heard that, I was like,
amount.
I'll often get the thing, I was like, oh yeah, that would be so great. Because this is the other thing, like she'll often, because she spends the time, she'll often then have a better strategy. So overall, that actually she gets rewarded by often winning and having just, you know, more points. But in my mind, I would get frustrated. I was like, but I should be rewarded for being fast thinking. And I think, I don't know if there's been games where things have to happen fast because you have a timer or things like that. I'm like, finally, this is my turn. And it has usually been the case where, because I'm a more instinctive.
You experienced that a bit with Pendulum.
Yeah, a little bit.
Like I think I struggled more with the timed element of it because you were just like, oh yeah, I'll do this. Oh yeah, I'll do that. Oh, and kind of sometimes you do like lots of small moves and then you get a picture, like you're building up to a bigger picture, whereas I'm trying to work backwards from Anyway, interesting different processes.
Yeah.
But yes, certainly I could relate that, that definitely is starting to impact because of these solo plays.
Yeah.
So that's just interesting.
And I'm trying to be mindful and not rush Amy through.
Sure you are.
Well, I'm trying. I'm not
Maybe
saying
from
I'm succeeding yet, but I am trying to be more mindful of it. Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the part of this episode where we'll talk about some games. And I'm excited about the range of games that we have today. There's some really good ones here. The first one of which is a game by Wolfgang Warsch, which is Clever Cubed, which we have the German edition here, which is Clever Hoch Drei. I have no idea how you would say that, but it is Clever Cubed. And if you are familiar with Gashon Clever, which is, what's the translation of that? That's very clever.
Yeah, I think it's like Gashon Clever. Yeah, that's
very
so clever.
That's so clever.
Yeah.
That's very clever. Anyway, it's very clever. And it's a game where in that game you are, rolling die and you're filling them in. So it's a roll and write into different coloured sections of a player board. And the beauty of the original Gachon Clever is the combos that you can pull off if you are filling in one thing and then it triggers something else, then it triggers something else. And the idea is to try and like elongate that turn and fill in as many spaces as possible in the game. Now, I was really surprised that Clever Cubed is actually quite similar to Gachon Clever. It has like definitely the same feel about it. So if you're familiar with that game, you'll be able to pick this one up really easily. But it adds like a lot of different layers to the game. The sections that you're filling in are a little more complex than Gachon Clever, I would say. There's a lot more forward planning that you need to do. There's some areas where you have to fill in numbers like in a sequence or +1 or -1. I think that's really interesting. There's also one of the sections is interesting because if you roll a die and the first number you take is a 1, you can fill out a 1 in this area. But if you roll a second die and take that and it's also a 1, then you would be able to fill in 2 1s because you'd already taken a 1. So there's this like cumulative effect of the dice that you're taking. But yeah, I don't know. What do you think of?
Well, I really enjoyed. I agree. It felt like Gachon Clever cubed. It was like a multiple, and I don't think that's what they were going for.
Maybe.
But that's what it felt like to me because it felt like it was like that little bit of extra complexity. It's like if you had a Gachon Clever times Gachon Clever, it's still technically Gachon Clever. But it's a little bit trickier.
Yeah,
like
the scores are much higher.
Yeah, the scores were higher.
Yeah. And I still feel like I'm really terrible at this one.
Oh, 100% I am absolutely terrible
quite
at this sort of optimization.
Yeah.
But I do find it's one of the few roll and writes that is super abstract because there's absolutely no theme and no theme attempt, which I actually appreciate because sometimes it's like if the theme attempt is just
pasted on.
Extremely pasted on. It's actually even just more annoying than anything else. But in this one, I don't care. Like I really enjoy the satisfaction of getting those combos and making those. I feel like I'm a little bit now spoiled post Hadrian's Wall because Hadrian's Wall is just like combo-tastic. It's just combos thrown at you left, right, and center, which is just like, oh my goodness, like it's just so amazing. And that kind of reminded me of Gachon. This one, you're getting that, but because it's a little bit trickier, it does make your brain work a little bit, burn a little bit hotter or more. I don't know, like work harder, I guess. And so, I still find it very satisfying when you get those combos, but they don't, at least with me, they don't tend to happen as incredibly. Like I'll maybe
in this game,
maybe I'll get a thread of like 3 things that trigger
But I think that's
once.
also because we're not playing it very well. I mean, we're playing it okay.
Yeah.
According to the scores, I think we got like a 2 stars.
Yeah, like 1.5 star and 2 star. We're like, woohoo,
we made it.
Like,
but I play a lot of Gachon Clever on the phone app, and it's super satisfying. I haven't cracked the 300 score yet, but I did give it a red hot go for a long time. And it's even satisfying when you get over 200 in that game.
I remember like taking screenshots. It was like, oh yes,
so close.
It's still nowhere near.
But I think the fun thing about Gachon Clever is that it is quite simple and it's quite quick. This one, it does, because it's a little more thinky, it does take a little more careful planning to achieve a lot of different things. I still really like it, and I'm actually really keen to check out. I think it is available in the app version. We have never played Twice as Clever. So that probably be the next one that we'll get to round out the collection. But that is Clever Cubed.
Clever Cubed.
Clever Cubed.
All right, the next one is a lovely little game. I love this concept called Black Sonata by Joan Keane. And so this is based on Shakespeare's Black Sonata, or the sonnets, and it's a dark lady, Shakespeare's London, and a 400-year-old mystery. So one of the sonnets, I don't know if it's one or multiple of the sonnets, talk about this dark lady, and that's been one of the things that academics have been puzzled for a long, long time trying to figure out who could have been this Dark Lady, and there's all these different ideas of what historical characters it could represent. And so in this game, you're going to try and figure out who that Dark Lady is. So you have, what's the mechanism called? It's sort of like hidden movement.
Yeah,
I should say it's a solo.
Deduction.
Yeah, it's a solo only game. You are set up in Shakespeare's London, and then you're going to be moving around different destinations or locales or venues, looking to see if you managed to spot the Dark Lady and then reveal who the Dark Lady is. I enjoyed this. I like how much it's very clever, the way of the use of the cards, and how some of the cards actually have a little hole through them. And so the way that you can figure out whether or not you manage to catch the Dark Lady, or that's how you can get clues and stuff, is you would layer the venue card and then sort of your card on top of it, and then you kind of turn it over and you kind of get to peek through the little peephole, and then you see a silhouette if you're in the right spot of the Dark Lady, and then that allows you to kind of get additional clues. After that, it becomes more of that, those games where you just have like different kind of symbols, and you're trying to go, trying to decipher, well, there's two of these are right, or one is wrong, one is right, that sort of thing, to eventually kind of find who the personality is that it's linked to. I enjoyed it. It's probably not, it's the kind of puzzle that, even though it was interesting, it's not the kind of puzzle that I love
You don't love deduction in general. In general, yeah. But I actually, I bought this game because I was watching Elodie, the founder of Board Game Geek, playing it live on a stream. And I really enjoyed the puzzle. I don't play solo games, but I was watching and playing along and trying to help, mention the comments, places to go and visit, where to go next. And so I bought a copy for Maggie, knowing that she would probably be into the theme, but maybe not as much the mechanics.
Yeah, I think, and I appreciate the mechanics because it's actually very clever. The design of this is very clever. Yeah. So if you are into either of those things, definitely check it out. There's also a lot of historical notes. So thematically speaking, there's a lot of information as well as part of the rule books. Because there's a couple of little booklets and stuff. So
that's
really interesting one. Yeah, Black Sonata.
Now, the next game that we're going to talk about is a funny little game called ClipCut Parks. Now, I actually pre-ordered this a long time ago and got it when it first came out, and we played it a little bit, and then it's been sitting on our shelf, and I just caught my eye, and I thought it would be a good one to talk about. ClipCut Parks is a roll and write, but unlike anything you've probably seen before, because instead of writing anything, you're using a pair of scissors to cut a piece of paper, and you're trying to create the patterns to fulfill the objective cards that you're given. And those objective cards have different colors, different symbols that you need to match. And basically, it's one big spatial awareness puzzle, because you are going to be rolling the die, and the die is going to tell you how many cuts you can make. So it might say 1, 2, and 3, which means you can make a cut of one length of like a square, because it's a grid, or 2 cuts, so it's 2 lengths of the grid, or 3. And you're going to be maneuvering your pair of scissors around this piece of paper to cut out the shapes, but it's going to be getting more and more difficult as you accidentally cut little pieces of squares off, because then you have to scrunch them up and they count against you. So it's super interesting. The box itself comes with 4 pairs of scissors, which is really fun. And then of course the different pads. And then there are 2 levels of objectives. And this is where I think this game really shines, because there are your base level objectives, which are not too difficult.
No,
so
they're very accessible.
Very family friendly.
Yeah.
It will be like you need to get a green square off of your piece of paper. Most people will be able to work out how to do that. But then there are the more extreme challenges, the more difficult cards. And they actually require you to cut out polyomino shapes with different color combinations and making sure that they're all linked together. When you play with just the advanced version of the cards, like Maggie and I do when we're playing just us, It is extremely difficult, but it's also hilarious.
It is hilarious.
It is hilarious.
Yeah.
And we got this back off the shelf and we were playing just with the advanced cards. And man, it's been a long time since we probably laughed that much at ourselves.
Yeah.
And
we
how
kept messing up. It's like, oh no, and then you only realize that you've messed up when you do a cut, and then it's like, oh, why did that piece fall off? And it's not the right shape, and what have I done? And they would just be cracking up.
I think 3 times in a row I was trying to cut out an L shape, but I was doing it in the wrong direction. Oh man. But this game is a lot of fun. It's so unlike anything else in our collection, and I'd forgotten about it. It was sitting on the shelf.
I hadn't forgotten about it, even though we hadn't been playing it. It's I love how it's very tactile, and it just feels like you're doing arts and crafts because you're kind of cutting it, and it's the sheets are very colorful, and you are kind of creating this little puzzle. Part of me kind of wishes there was a way to. It feels like at the end when you finish and you've got all these kind of beautiful little parks that you've created with all these different types of terrains, and there's like little zoo ones, and there's.
I really paid no attention to the theme.
Well,
in this game,
again, like you can just like abstractly.
But it's
look at the
pretty
shapes.
abstract. Do you feel like you're building parks?
I a little bit. No, I'm not going to say that this is an immersively thematic, but it is immersive in the sense that it's very mindful. Like you're just kind of like, and then also like trying to figure out the puzzle, and so I just love it I just feel so relaxed in a way playing it. Also because there's no real time sort of stress about it, aside from the fact that you're trying to. It is a race, but it's not like, oh no, like you're gonna get this. So I really enjoy it.
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's actually 1 to 4 players, and I think that you could pretty much hack it to suit more players, which I'm going to do. I'm going to take it to work, actually. I think this will be a really fun one, because all you need to do is make sure everybody has, like, as far as the cards can stretch, if you've got other pairs of scissors, which most workplaces do,
you would hope.
I'd be able to set up a really great multiplayer game of this. Maggie, you also played it solo.
I did, yeah. And so solo, it's a very similar experience because you're still just kind of trying to figure out your own puzzle. There's no real intervention, like you don't really mess up with each other's game in any way, shape, or form. So it's exactly the same experience if you're playing it solo, but it changes in that it does try to have, there's a deck of cards that you're using as your timer in a way, and so when you go through that entire deck, that's sort of like, that's your stop, and then it's to trying to get the most parks completed. But what I did like about that is that they also add them points. Like, so there's points for every one of the parks that you complete. There's points for the longest park that you complete. There's minus points based on the little kind of crumbled bits that you end up with. So it is good if you like to then sort of better your own score and see if
But I think like the best part of this game is the laughing and the ridiculousness of how it makes your brain work and.
But that's what I was saying before. Like, I wish at the end, I always feel bad that you made all these beautiful little parks, and then you just have to kind of crumble it all and throw it all out. Like, there's no. I guess it's the same if you have any kind of sheet or pad. It's like that just get thrown out. But it's just like whenever you do any kind of piece of art or craft, it's like you kind of want to frame it somehow. You want to maintain it somehow. But I haven't figured out a way of doing it. Maybe I just need to take a photo.
Yeah,
and
take
that would
a
be
photo
the way of
capturing all of your parks.
My beautiful little parks.
You say so. Okay, so that is ClipCut Parks. The next game, oh my goodness.
Oh my goodness.
I'm so excited to talk about this game. I've just been doing a lot of talking, but I really want to talk about this one.
All right.
So this is Paris.
Should I talk about the theme first, and then you can just go on and on about
Okay, and also you can say the French.
Oh my goodness. Here we go. I'm about to butcher this, and I apologize in advance. So this game is Paris, la Cité de la Lumière.
The City of Lights.
City of Lights. So this takes place in the 1800s when Paris had kind of figured out, and it was like, well, the City of Lights. You had all this public electricity, or like, I think it was like a gas network of all the street lights. And so in this game, what you're trying to do is you're trying to make sure that you're building your buildings, and you want to make sure that your buildings are well lit, so you're making the most of all these street lights so that you're kind of prominently featured.
Mechanically, this game is incredible. I absolutely adore it, and I'm going to give you a full rundown of why I enjoy it so much. First of all, the game takes place in the box.
That is awesome. Like, the
really
production of it is really cool. Like,
so it's a polyomino tile laying game, and you're going to be laying those tiles on top of cobblestone tiles inside the box. Now, that's really cool in and of itself because there's not too many games that utilize the box area.
And I don't know why not. It's right there.
Yeah, it's perfect. It creates like a little frame for you to put all of the tiles into, which is really satisfying. But this is a 2-player only game. Yeah. And this game does something that I love in games, which is it creates tension exceptionally well. So what this game is all about, it's played in 2 phases. And in the first phase, you are going to be doing one of 2 actions. You can either take a polyomino tile piece that are kind of limited and there's only one of each type of shape, or you're going to be placing a cobblestone tile into the box from a stack that you are revealing one at a time. Now, the cobblestone tiles have different colors on them that relate to your own player color, your opponent's player color, and a neutral color that you can both place tiles on. And so the way that these cobblestone tiles are going to be laid out into the box is going to dictate where you're going to be able to place those polyomino tiles. So first of all, you've got this beautiful tension of, am I going to contribute to the map where I can place polyomino tiles, or am I going to be taking the polyomino tiles that I think I'm going to be able to place on the map? And so just that tension is wonderful. And then in the second phase, you again have 2 choices. Your first choice is to place a polyomino tile down onto the map that you've both created in the first phase, or take an action that really disrupts the game or creates chaos or allows you to do something to block your opponent or to help yourself out. And that again creates this tension of the race to place the polyomino tiles in, ideal places before you get messed with, versus the ability to use these one-off actions that you're only going to get to do 4 of, and only if your opponent hasn't got to them first.
Unique. Yeah.
So the whole game is so tightly competitive and a little bit take that-ish.
A little bit. It is so, that was the thing that I struggle with this game. It's it can be very mean and very, because it's very much a head-to-head.
It is. And this game came out, I think it was 2020, or maybe it was 2019.
Yeah. Right.
But it is due to get an expansion, which I'm super excited about. But if you're into mechanics and tightly competitive games, this is just such a great example. So the designer is Jose Abascal and Antonio Abascal, and he's mostly well known for this game and the upcoming expansion. But I don't know. There's something about it that just makes me smile, and it's rare to find a game that really clicks with you. And this one, it's difficult as well. It's very tricky. You have to plan ahead because you don't know what the map's going to look like, and you are constantly weighing up the kind of opportunity cost of taking a different action. Or anticipating what your opponent's going to do. So if I can see that Maggie really is going to go for a tile that I want to go for, I might grab it first and then reap the consequences of not taking another action. But it's really cool. And I should say the scoring is really interesting too, because after you've placed all of your tiles, you're also going to get points for the longest contiguous group of polyomino tiles. So you're also thinking about how can I connect all of my tiles together on the map. And the other thing is you're only also going to get this lighting bonus for when your polyomino tiles have a street light adjacent to them. So there's all these complexities to think about in terms of how you're best going to manage this puzzle and manage your opponent. And I just...
You reacted to this like you had found a unicorn. This is one of those unicorn games that we're like...
Yeah. This is... To me, if you like the game Kahuna, which is a game that I've spoken about before on this series and I absolutely love, this is like Kahuna to me. It's it's competitive, there's a lot of strategy. This is probably heavier, I would say, than Kahuna.
Definitely, yes.
There's a lot more thought that you need to put into it, but it is a meatier game. It's a beautiful game, and it packs such a big punch in a little box.
Yeah. Now, my experience of this game, I appreciate the artwork, I appreciate the production, I appreciate the complexity, and then complexity not in terms of like it's so difficult. It is difficult and complex, but it's like the layering of all the mechanics and things at play. Like it is very, very well done. The experience of playing it, however, I found hugely frustrating, in big part because it's not how my brain naturally thinks. And so I was getting very frustrated. I also don't enjoy any kind of take that or feeling like someone's, attacking me or someone's messing with my beautiful kind of plans or buildings. And so for those reasons, it's like, and I don't like when if a game makes me feel stupid or I feel stupid playing a game because I can't see, it's like, or I'll be working on one strategy and then I realize, because this has all those different phases, is like the first phase is kind of laying out the land, the distribution of your bits of real estate where you're going to even be allowed to place those polyomino tiles. And then the next layer is, okay, we're trying to grab those polyomino tiles, but then the next layer is that they also have to be adjacent to light. And then the next layer is that they also have to kind of connect all through. The next layer is you have the other player at every turn trying to mess with, with the possible positions. And so whenever I feel stupid playing a game, and because there's just so much going on that I'm like, I'm not getting it, then I just get frustrated. I'm like, this is so frustrating. And it's like I'm not frustrated. Yeah, I'm like, I then don't enjoy the process. I also don't enjoy when like I'm getting when my advancement is at the expense of someone else. So it's like, which is the nature of like a take that sort of thing. Having said that, like it's just because I'm not into those sorts of things, not to take away from like it is a very, very well done game.
Yeah, not every game is for everybody.
Exactly.
This game is for me.
So it is. It was like it's one of those like it just hit all those things for you that you
absolutely
love.
Does.
To me, one of the things I've talked about before is like Blokus. The game Blokus.
Yeah.
It's that sort of you're just trying to kind of get as much terrain and block the other person. This felt to me like thematic Blokus times 3 cube. This is Blokus cubed with a theme laid out, a good theme laid out over the top of it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm like, it's not really the thing that I'm like, let's play Paris.
Yeah.
But it is it's a beautifully made and done game.
And I do it, and I just need to get it off my shelf more often and find other people to play it with.
So that
is Paris City of Lights.
Yes. All right, the next game is Cascadia? Cascadia? Tomato? So, which one should we go with? Cascadia? Cascadia. Okay, Cascadia is a game by Randy Flynn, produced by AEG and Flat Out Games. This game is a beautiful game. Beth Sobel illustrated it. It takes place in the American Northwest, and it's just these beautiful nature landscapes where we're going to be trying to match wildlife to their most adequate ecosystem. Now, the way that this actually comes together is through tile laying or tile drafting, and also trying to kind of match, obviously connect the different terrains that we're going to get in all the different tiles, but then also kind of matching with the wildlife. There's different objectives in terms of how they want to be laid out, who they want to be next to or not next to, and the more we're able to kind of meet the needs of those goal ecosystems, then the more points we'll get and the more winnery we will be.
What I love is that we've now been doing this channel long enough that we have videos about our anticipation about campaigns, and now those campaigns are starting to arrive. So this one is a Kickstarter campaign. I've seen lots of people around kind of receiving this, but it was fun to go back to the original video that I posted back when I was doing Kickstarter diaries all by myself, if you're watching the channel back in its earliest days. And I was talking about Cascadia, and the campaign. And I was talking about the fact that what I like most is the central mechanic. I still think that's true. So the thing that I like about this game is you're drafting both a
tile and a disc.
A tile and a disc. So the tile is the terrain, the disc is the animal type, and you're going to have to draft both as a pair. And that creates this tension as sometimes you want a tile, but you don't want the disc, and vice versa. And they're both going to the tiles are always going to have to be laid out into your ecosystem. but the tile is going to be,
itself,
the disc, sorry, is going to be useful or useless. And if it's useless, you're just going to be discarding it, and that's a kind of inefficient way to play the game. So you are trying to get pairs of things that you like. That's what I spoke about when I said I was backing it. That's what I really like about this game. One thing that I did say in the video is that I thought there would be a lot of hate drafting, and as we've played this game, we've only played it at 2-player count for now, but there is certainly no sense that hate drafting is really going to be a big part of this game, and that's because it's too impactful on your own space to be hate drafting something that someone else needs. So it's certainly like there are things that come up where everybody wants them and you're going to grab that because it's beneficial for you. But I wouldn't just take something generally speaking. And maybe I would. I won't say never say never.
The challenge I would say would happen with the hate drafting is there's so much going on in your own puzzle.
Yeah, there is.
That you're just so focused on that in order for you to know what someone else is trying to vie for, unless they're vocalizing it and saying, I really need a salmon, and you're like, there's a salmon, I don't really need it, but that would be the only occasion. Because I cannot for the life of me think that I could ever be in a mental space where I would be optimizing my puzzle and also knowing exactly what's going on in your puzzle.
I absolutely knew everything that you were looking for.
What?
The whole time.
Did you really?
Yeah, absolutely. Because in this game, there's only 5 public goals that are going to score points at the end of the game. And then there's also like to have the most of each type of terrain as well. So that's where the tension is built in as well in this game, is that you're trying to optimize your terrain laying to have like terrain grouped together. So it's the biggest forest area that you can create, for example. But you're also then trying to optimize the discs. And that's to do with a variable setup at the beginning of the game, which creates a lot of variability in this game, which I really like. But there's for me, there's not too many different ways to score. So I was certainly looking over at Maggie. I was constantly evaluating how much terrain of each type she had versus me.
I never not once realized what was going on your board.
But this is the type of gamer, like we've given Maggie a multiplayer solitaire puzzle and she will just focus on what's going on in her own space.
Trying to optimize my thing.
Whereas I was very much looking at
all my grey matter is concentrated and focused.
I wasn't hate drafting. Drafting, but I was keeping an eye on things that I needed to improve about my area to outperform you in certain areas. So I think that what's interesting, this game is coming from AEG and Flat Out Games, and the last time that they collaborated on a really well-known title is Calico, and Calico is a game that we absolutely adore. I would say that this is much easier and breezier than Calico. Calico is quite painful in that you are waiting on a really limited supply of tiles, and
stakes feel higher.
Yeah, definitely. And if you don't get the tile to complete an objective, you're losing a lot of points. Whereas in this game, it really feels like you're just building towards points. You're not losing points. And so for that reason, there's not really too many bad options. There are definitely animals that you might not be going after for some reason, and then that's all you have available to you to pick from, like the ones that you're not collecting. But you can just start a new collection of points. So I found that the game moves really swiftly. It was really fun to
and
build
relaxing,
out.
way more relaxing.
Really
than
relaxing.
Calico.
Yeah, because Calico it appears relaxing, but it's not really. It's pretty tense.
It can get very pressure is real.
But I can also imagine just playing this with a wide range of gamers because there's no pressure again to like perfect the puzzle. It's just about how many points can you get. The scoring is really fun and interesting, and the drafting is really great.
I do enjoy that there's so many avenues for point collection, because there's the most obvious one being the actual goals that you're aiming for, and they're usually going to be your highest source of points. The animal kind of configurations and how they want to be placed and that sort of stuff. But then there's also points for having, like, for the longest sort of continuous streak of the different terrains. So each terrain will score, and then you also have majority scoring, so you get bonus points for that. So I haven't tried that, but like that could also be another strategy of trying to.
You haven't tried that?
As in, like, I try a little bit to look at.
That's
to
what
try
I was
and
constantly
keep
watching on your puzzle.
Oh, I wasn't even trying that. So it must have been like observing, you're like, what is she doing? That's like, because I wasn't like, I was more focusing on the animal goals than on the terrain, trying to make the terrains make sense, but not just focusing on like, I'm just trying to optimize and make the longest line of this particular terrain or that terrain. Yeah. But yeah, there's lots of options.
There are lots of options, and our scores were never that dissimilar. So I felt like
we actually had a game where it was like we had very different strategies, and it was like this completely different. Yeah, with the exact same score. That was actually really thrilling.
Yeah, so it does feel very balanced, and I just think that it's going to be accessible to a lot of players. The production quality is beautiful, and I really like that the animal goals somewhat relate to that animal. So there are certain things like patterns and stuff where it's like, oh, I can kind of see how that plays out in the wild, in the wild, and I really enjoy it. It will be staying in our collection.
I should also say that I played this solo, and the solo mode has a kind of like a campaign. Which is kind of it's more of an achievements board. So there's a whole series of scenarios, and you're trying to kind of get a little tick of achievement based on those different scenarios. So the scenarios have a set combination of the animal goals, and then set things that you want to achieve, like X number of points, or make sure that these animals are never next to each other, or have this number of like the little acorn, more like pine cone sort of tokens by the end. So those sorts of things. So I enjoyed it, but again, I feel like overall, because I'm fairly like multiplayer solitaire, the experience of it felt very much like exactly playing it multiplayer. But I think overall, because it's more just like trying to achieve these different things, it's interesting, but I'd still rather play it like with you.
And, oh, that's nice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I guess I'd still rather play with you.
Meanwhile, I am both impressed that you were able to that you were tracking everything that I was doing, and also a little bit perturbed by it. I just feel like a little bit big brother. It's like, how much does she know about what I'm doing?
Of course.
Yeah, but impressive.
And okay.
Yeah.
Well, next time Maggie will know that I'll be watching.
She's always watching.
But anyway, that is
twice if she's watching.
That is the 5 games for this episode of Small Talk. Thank you, as always, for tuning in on a fortnightly basis to this series. We still really enjoy talking through small box games. People keep getting worried that we're going to run out of them, but
sometimes I worry, and then magically by the time that it's time to film, it's like, oh no, there's heaps still.
No, there's always more. And when we dig around in our cupboard, there's always so many small box games hanging around that we haven't spoken about. So don't worry.
Don't stress.
We've got a lifetime supply of small box games. But again, thank you for watching. Please hit like if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And we'll be back with more board game videos really soon. But bye for now. Bye.